The title of this book, the title of this book, The Spiritual Man. The author is our beloved brother, Watchman Nee. We are in chapter 3, The Fall of Man. Chapter 3, The Fall of Man. Chapter 3, subpart 3. Chapter 3, subpart 3. He uses the things of the flesh and eaten fruit to entice men's soul into sin. As soon as the soul sins, the spirit descends into utter darkness. The order of his working is always such. From the outside to the inside. If he does not start with the body, then he begins by working on the mind or the emotion in order to get to the will of man. The moment man's will yields to Satan, he possesses man's whole being and put the spirit to death. Not so the work of God. He is always from the inside to the outside. God begins working in man's spirit and continue by illuminating his mind, stirring his emotion, and causing him to exercise his will over his body for carrying into execution the will of God. The will of God. All satanic work are performed from the outside inward, all divine work from the inside outward. We may, in this way, distinguish what's come from God and what from Satan. All this additionally teach us that once Satan sees man's will, then is he in control over that man. We should carefully note that the soul is where man expresses his free will and exerts his own mastery. The Bible therefore often records that it is the soul which sins. For example, Micah chapter 6 verse 7 says, "The sin of my soul, the sin of my soul." Ezekiel chapter 18 verse 4 and 20 read, "The soul that sins." And in the book of Leviticus, a number mentioned frequently is made that the soul sins. Why? Because it is the soul which chooses to sin. Our description of sin is: the will accuses in the temptation. Sinning is a matter of the soul's will. Atonement accordingly must be for the soul. He gave the heave offering of Jehovah to make atonement for your souls. In Exodus chapter 30 verse 15. Darby version. For the soul of the flesh is in the blood, and I have given it to you upon the altar to make atonement for your souls. For it is the blood that maketh atonement for the souls. In Leviticus chapter 17 verse 11. To make atonement for our souls before Jehovah. In Number chapter 31 verse 15. Verse 50. Darby version. Since it is the soul which sins, it follows that the soul needs to be atoned, and it can only be atoned, moreover, by a soul. It pleased Jehovah to bruise him. He but subjected him to suffering. Thou shalt make his soul an offering for sin. He shall see of the fruit of the travail of his soul, and shall be satisfied. He but poured out his souls into death, and he bore the sin of many, and made intercession for the transgressor. And got Isaiah chapter 53 verse 10 to 11. The Abbey version. In examining the nature of Adam's sin, we discover that aside from rebellion, there is also a certain kind of independence. We must not lose sight here of free will. On the one hand, the tree of life implies a sense of dependence. Man at that time did not possess God's nature, but had partaken of the fruit of the tree of life. He could have secured God's life. Man could have reached his summit, possessing the very life of God. This is dependence. On the other hand, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil suggests independency because men strive by the exercise of his will for the knowledge, not promise, for something not accorded to him by God. His rebellion declared his independence. By rebelling, he did not need to depend upon God. Furthermore, his seeking the knowledge of good and evil also showed his independence, for he has not satisfied with what God had bestowed already. The difference between spiritual and soulish is crystal clear. The spiritual depend utterly upon God, fully satisfied with what God has given. The soulish stir clear of God and covered what God has not conferred, especially knowledge. Independence is a special mark of the soulish. That thing, no matter how good, even worshiping God is unquestionably of the soul if it does not require complete trust in God and instead call for reliance upon one's strength. The tree of life can grow within us together with the tree of knowledge. Rebellion and independence explain every sin committed by both sinner and sin. The soulish stir clear of God and covered what God has not conferred, especially knowledge. Independence is a special mark of the soulish. That thing, no matter how good, even worshiping God is unquestionably of the soul if it does not require complete trust in God and instead call for reliance upon one's own strength. The tree of life cannot grow within us together with the tree of knowledge. Rebellion and independence explain every sin committed by both sinners and sin. Spirit, soul, and body after the fall. Spirit, soul, and body after the fall. Adam lived by the breath of life, becoming spirit in him. By the Spirit, he sensed God, knew God's voice, and communed with God. He had a very keen awareness of God, but after his fall, his spirit died. When God spoke to Adam at the first, he said, "In the day that you eat of it and cut the fruit of the tree of good and evil, you shall die." In God, Genesis chapter 2, verse 17. Adam and Eve, nevertheless, continue on for hundreds of years after eating the forbidden fruit. This obviously indicates that the death God foretold was not physical. Adam's death began in his spirit. What really is death? What really is death? According to its scientific definition, death is the cessation of communication with environment. Death of the spirit is the cessation of its communication with God. Death of the body is the cutting off of communication between spirit and body. So when we say the spirit is dead, it does not imply there is no more spirit. We simply means the spirit has lost sensitivity toward God and thus is dead to him. The exact situation is that the spirit is incapacitated, unable to commune with God. To illustrate, a doomed person has a mouth and hands, but something is wrong with his vocal cord and he is powerless to speak. So far as human language is concerned, his mouth may be considered dead. Similarly, Adam's spirit died because of his disobedience to God. He still had his spirit, yet it was dead to God, for it had lost its spiritual instinct. It is still so. Sin had destroyed the spirit's keen intuitive knowledge of God and rendered man spiritual dead. He may be religious, moral, learned, capable, strong, and wise, but he is dead to God. He may even talk about God, reason about God, and preach God, but he is still dead to him. Man is not able to hear or to sense the voice of God's Spirit. Consequently, in the New Testament, God often refers to those who are living in the flesh as dead. The death which began in our forefather's spirit gradually spread until it reached his body. Third, he lived on for many years after his spirit was dead, yet nevertheless walked incessantly in him until his spirit, soul, and body were all dead. His body, which could have been transformed and glorified, was instead returned to dust, because his inward man had fallen into chaos. His outward body must die and be destroyed. Henceforth, Adam's spirit, and God as well as the spirit of all his descendants, fell under. Henceforth, Adam's spirit, and God as well as the spirit of all his descendants, fell under the oppression of the soul until it gradually merged with the soul and the two parts become closely united. The writer of Hebrews declares in Hebrews chapter 4, verse 12, that the word of God shall pierce and divide soul and spirit. The dividing is necessary because spirit and soul have become one. Why they are intimately knit, they plunge man into a psychic world. Everything is done according to the dictate of intellect or feeling. The spirit has lost its power and sensation, has stored dead asleep. What instinct it has in knowing and serving God is entirely paralyzed. It remains in a coma as if non-existent. This is what it means in Judge chapter 1 verse 19, by natural, not having spirit, and got literal. This certainly does not mean human spirit cease to exist. For Numbers chapter 16 verse 22 distantly state that God is the God of the spirit of all flesh. Every human being still has in his possession a spirit, although it is darkened by sin and impotent to hold communion with God.